We got about another minute or two to go, but I want to make sure we talk about the ownership situation for a moment, Mel. Okay, and that being this. You got a new owner. You know what? He didn't pick this quarterback, even though Cam has had some success. So, yeah, why not take a young quarterback, develop him, and bring somebody else in? Because if you're not winning and getting into playoffs consistently, then he's got to do that and get smart with the finances. So,
you pick the quarterback or the coach?
Well, I think they'll get rid of both. To be honest with you.
I mean, Rivera, I think ever since that Super Bowl loss after Newton's MVP year, I think it's kind of just been downhill from here. No? And I don't know how you feel about this, Mel, but clubhouse culture, I think that's a big thing in the NFL, especially with your quarterback, considering he's such a commanding force. What Russell Wilson has is that he probably commands that clubhouse better than any quarterback other than, say, Brady or Breeze or Rodgers. And Newton, I feel like it just seems like he's lost that. He had that for a couple of years in the mid-2010s, but it seems like now it's just like, with new ownership and, with his struggles the last couple of years, and obviously injuries have played a part of that, he just doesn't command that same presence in the clubhouse anymore.
And it doesn't help the fact that he looks like a complete clown at these press conferences. If I wanted Oopsie the Clown or Bozo the Clown like we grew up with, Mel, I'd go ahead and watch a circus, not watching this guy over at a press conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has something to do with it, but I think it has. I think that would be tolerated more so if his play on the field was a lot better.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
like
bet.
I said, the shoulder injury and other foot injuries.
Consistent on the field. And yeah, he has been injured the past couple of years. He was injured last year and tried to play through a shoulder injury, which he probably should have done. Supposedly was healthy when camp started, injured his foot during training camp, and has not played very well thus far this season. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how it goes. Cam Newton has always frustrated me because he's got so much athletic ability, but to me, he's just not living up to his potential. And I just, obviously the way he dresses, that bothers me, but that doesn't have anything with his ability to lead a football team.
Right.
But I'm just frustrated because I'd like to see him be able to get more out of his talent because he is immensely talented.
Yeah, the dress thing is one thing, and I get that, Mel, but here's the deal, okay? If you're talented, people will tolerate it, but if you're not playing well, then certain aspects become, in terms of professionalism, become more magnified. Right. Oh, yeah, they do.
And in this case, yeah, his eccentricities, I guess, in the realms of fashion are kind of, overshadowing how bad he's playing. And they're exacerbated by that.
No question about it. So, yeah, that's a good point. And you're right, Mel, since you're going to be a frequent visitor on the program, okay? We'll be able to monitor that situation as well as a bunch of other ones. But meanwhile, Mel, thank you for being on the Sports Exchange. I'll give you a call next few days. Well, I'll let you know when you're due back on, which will probably be pretty soon anyways. Okay, buddy?
All right, thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Enjoy the rest of the game, okay? But I like your prediction so far. It looks like Seattle's ahead. So thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mel. Appreciate
it. Mel.
All right.
Take care.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you were saying. You were mentioning some things, Lewis, about Newton. Go ahead and elaborate about what you're talking about.
I make reference to Tom Brady a lot, and this is just because some people get very, they don't like the Patriots, and the first thing they'll say is, oh, they're cheaters. And what are they? Two instances they referred to, the deflated footballs and the Colts 45-3 loss in that AFC Championship game a couple of years ago, and Deflategate. Correct? And then they'll refer to Spygate in 2007 in that undefeated season.
Right.
We tend, as sports fans and just observers of anything in general that's above us, I think we tend to ascribe, it works in a bad way and it works in a good way. For Brady, we've seen Brady is 42 years old now. He turned 42 in August, and he's still an elite level quarterback, arguably one of the three best quarterbacks in this league other than Mahomes, Breeze, Wilson. Rearrange him anywhere you want, but Brady's got this radical diet with his trainer Alex Guerrero that he's been doing for the past couple of years, which has helped him stay in shape. And we criticize it because, in the age of the internet, everything is available online. You can go online and see what Tom Brady eats in a day. And an average human, who consumes a 2,000-calorie diet, we'd see that as strange, but it works. So we don't necessarily criticize it.
Right.
But Newton, who, as me and Mel and you discussed, he's been inconsistent for the past couple of years. I noted this. Look at the last two quarterbacks to win MVPs prior to the Super Bowl. Or actually, 3 of the last 4 to win MVPs prior to the Super Bowl. Newton in 16 prior to that Super Bowl, Brady and Matt Ryan, and they struggle.
All right. Well, with that said, okay, we welcome our next guest. His name is Damon Knight, and Damon has in common with Lewis. Everybody out there, I got two good young writers and that have earned their way on the air. And Damon, welcome back to the Sports Exchange.
Thank you, Scoop. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, glad to have you on. So let's go over a few things here. I know you wrote a nice story on the Michigan Wolverines basketball team, so go ahead and elaborate on it.
So what my story is about is how Juwan Howard's impact on Michigan is going to bring somewhat of historic history from its past, with the Fab Five and such, and how much professionalism that he brings to the coaching staff as well as the University of Michigan. Juwan Howard comes from the Miami Heat organization, and as you know, from like the last decade on, they have nothing but excellence, with LeBron James and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade, and a winning mentality that he brings with his experience there. And of course, he learned under Eric Spoelstra, a proven coach in the NBA, as well as a former coach and GM, Pat Riley. So, he's getting a lot of support from former and current Michigan athletes such as Jake Long. Jake Long said that, this is awesome, and he said, welcome home, Coach Howard. Isaiah Livers, Michigan's current junior forward, he's really happy. He was like, Juwan Howard, Fab Five, this guy is, from the NBA, he knows what he's doing, and who wouldn't want that in their locker room. So That's basically what my story's about.
Well, okay, that's good. So let's talk about Juwan Howard's return to the Michigan Wolverines, and here's where I'm going to go with it, okay? Yep. Number one, he brings in a guy like Phil Martelli, who's an assistant coach, and all Phil Martelli did was he coached at St. Joseph's forever, took him to NCAA tournaments, a school out in Philadelphia, and his record at St. Joe's by itself was 425 and 303, but his entire coaching mark was 444, 328 with a 575 winning percentage. So you're talking about a guy that went ahead, his lead assistant, okay, wins 58% of the time. And, if you need a right-hand man, okay, you couldn't do a whole lot better than Phil Martelli, right, Damon Knight?
Oh, no, you can't do much more better than that. He's going to have rookie moments, and he's going to need that experience to guide him along, in certain situations. Like, when he goes against, Tom Izzo, he's got his right-hand man to be like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to adjust. And so, it's a team game. It's not just, they're relying on him solely. It's got to be a team thing, and you got to have experience. So, experience goes a long way. Yeah,
great addition to the staff. And you alluded to this, so I'm going to elaborate on this, okay? He was an assistant with Miami Heat. I think you're talking about the fact that he has the energy that's equivalent to Pat Riley. And, of course, Eric Spoelstra just recently got a contract extension, right, Lewis? Mm-hmm. So, he's definitely trained in a great environment, hasn't he?
Oh, yes. And he knows what it takes to win.
Right.
And, he's going to give his best effort, and I really, really think that he is going to take Michigan in a positive direction.
Yeah, and it's amazing, too. John Beilein left, and then the Wolverines were able to thankfully bring on Juwan Howard, who, by the way, had a head coaching interview with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously, he didn't get far, but nothing wrong with the consolation prize going to Ann Arbor to coach at your alma mater as well. So, but let's talk about in terms of the recruiting advantage that Howard does have to with students that he's going to bring in there. He's a pro player, he's a coach, and he has connections to the NBA. Now, before you add to this, I can tell you many times I've talked to a lot of coaches and students, and to have those connections to the professional level is a huge asset. I'll localize it for a moment. Many years ago when I first started covering college football, Howard Schnellenberger, certainly when he had the Miami Hurricanes job many years ago, used that connection with the undefeated Miami Dolphins, and he carried that pedigree through, and the list goes on and on. So why don't you go ahead and give me your thoughts on that?
Yes, having professional experience is a huge deal. Kids when they go to college, their plan, or not like necessarily their plan, but like their ultimate goal is to make it to the NBA, and they're going to pick Howard's brain on how to get there and what is the best possible route for me. And that's going to be a convincing angle for him to use for kids that he's going to try to recruit. His connections with LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. There was one writer that said this might be an avenue for Bronny James and Zaire Wade to join Michigan in their future, and it's right around the corner, and that might just pay off, and I can totally see that. So.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Juwan Howard is one of the most respectable individuals. And Louis, you're probably more connected to Miami Heat than I am. So give me your thoughts about what you were able to see with Juwan Howard in the time he was there. Did you follow the Heat very much?
Not that much. I mean, I've taken some stock in what they've done in the offseason and acquiring Jimmy Butler, and I believe they traded Goran Dragic. But, it's going to be an interesting year for them. I haven't looked into too much with what Howard's done with them. But, I'll follow the NBA more this year considering, what reports came out about the Lakers, who had recently acquired Anthony Davis, and how they're going to run the offense through him. LeBron will play more of a passive role, which kind of strikes me as similar to what he did in Miami when he wasn't as much of a ball hog in the beginning of his tenure there when Bosh and Wade were there and they all signed together. And, and I think that's a formula for success. LeBron is a team player first, so I think he'll succeed with Davis there. But, the Heat, they'll be an interesting team. I'm looking at them as possibly an 8th seed in the East.
Okay, all right. So, Damon, you wrote a story on Jimmy Butler, so why don't you and Lewis talk about what kind of an asset that Jimmy Butler could mean to the Miami Heat?
Well, first of all, when I wrote the story, I mentioned that he brought tension, and it's a great tension. It's not a cancerous tension like with an Antonio Brown with that situation. It's a tension of taking accountability, showing up, making sure that you're giving it your all, and each and every practice, and that's one of the reasons why he went to Miami was because of that and that professionalism, which Howard is bringing to Michigan. So.
All right, so let's connect the dots. Okay, how do you think a guy like Juwan Howard would handle a personality like Jimmy Butler, even though we'll never know?
I don't think. That's a good question. How would he handle it? I think he would respect him. I think he would know where he is coming from. I think he would also teach that player a little, humility, a little bit of humbleness. Just do it in a professional manner. And not cause negative drama towards the team, I would say.
Okay, well, that's a fair point. Any other observations you want to make pertaining to the Juwan Howard hiring in Michigan?
Yeah, the community aspect. I mentioned that Quentin Richardson said that he came under Juwan Howard, from his Chicago days, and he's going to be a great figure in the community, and he's going to bring, I think, positive energy towards the Ann Arbor area, and he's going to develop. People are going to want to start coming more to games and stuff like that, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a sight to see.
All right. Well, obviously you live in the area. John Beilein did a marvelous job when he was over there, but when you look at John Beilein being in the community, do you think he was as involved in the community as he should have been, or was it really that big of a deal for him? Because obviously you've indicated what Howard will probably be like in that community.
Not to my knowledge, but I'm pretty sure that he did some things in the community that is well appreciated and well thought of. I don't know. The advantage that Howard has is that he grew his popularity when he was there, with the Fab Five and such, and of course the NBA, and Jim Beilein is kind of like, in my opinion, an under the radar type figure in the Michigan area. He did take us to 2 national championships, but we'll see. I think he's going to do great things for Cleveland. I think, he's going to bring that experience, and I think Cleveland is going to, relish, from it. So.
Well, the one thing